about strongest brands in rugby. All right, hold on. Let me remove my butt kicking music. We did that. We're good now. We're good now. Strongest brands in rugby. All right. And now there was a study that was done. I actually saw this article initially on planetrugby.com, which basically announced that uh, the New Zealand All Blacks have had one of the greatest increases in the value of their brand, as well as have the strongest brand as well. And that is not surprising. I think we could all expect that. But what was interesting was the breakdown. Now, this was done by a company um, known as Brand. What do they call it? Brandfinance.com. And they clearly were trying to be able to create an establishment for the brands for rugby. And it looked like, your top 10 is basically what you would expect it. It starts off as the most valuable brands being the New Zealand All Blacks, England Rugby at 2, French Rugby at 3, Irish Rugby at 4, Wales at 5, South Africa at 6, Wallabies at 7, Scotland at 8, Japan at 9, and Italy at 10. I was actually a little surprised about Japan as being one of the valuable ones because right now, okay, they take in All Blacks at $282 million worth of brand value. And the lowest being Italy at $22.4 million worth of brand value. Kind of interesting to me. And some of these were done, this was also kind of done right before the Rugby World Cup ended. So I think this is actually probably adjusted a little bit more now, but this was done like around October or so. So, it's taken with a slight grain of salt. But what I did find also interesting was the fact that the strongest brands are not necessarily the wealthiest, are not necessarily going to be the wealthiest, which is really the one switch was Wales and South Africa. So New Zealand was still the strongest brand, even though it had decreased in brand value since 2019. England holding strong. France increasing its value as being a number one in the world before the Rugby World Cup. South Africa, it claimed that it's going down, but I think at this point it's probably increased past France after winning the Rugby World Cup, but not past England. Ireland, and then Wales, Australia, Scotland, Japan, and Italy. So the one thing that made it really interesting to me was one, the amount that the highest brand value, and this was also taken into consideration, sponsorships, social media impact, fandom, and there was one more. There's one more that was taken into consideration to add to the market value. Loyalty, staff, and ability to attract customers. So, we know New Zealand, even whenever they were having quote quote a down year this year, they still had dominance on the pitch. They were able to do it off the pitch. The investment by Silverleaf made made a difference in terms of their increase. In terms of their increase of their brand value. Merchandise was still up. So like New Zealand has been able to stay pivotal, and that makes a difference because they have no population. So if you can hold and still have no population, it's significant. England, I was actually surprised at how high it was. I'm not surprised by the value of the brand because we know RFU has the wealthiest, is the wealthiest rugby union. And even with the losses of teams in the Premiership, the England national team is definitely going to be funded well, even if they disappoint, which we know they disappoint quite often. And then France and Ireland actually were the ones that I was surprised. France, not so much, but Ireland. I know Ireland's brand value, I would have thought their brand value went up, but I didn't think that their brand strength would go up, but I didn't think their brand value would go up because, again, limited country, only so many sponsors, and I didn't know if there had been such a significant increase in the number of their merchandise. And obviously, they have a loyal fan base, so I think that probably played really heavily. They broke down an explanation. I don't want to go into every detail of it, and you guys can actually find it, the full explanation, and download the full thing at branddirectory.com /rankings. To be able to check out the full report, and they break it down per each one. But a lot of it, and that's why I said I think South Africa at this point is higher, was because fan loyalty and the awareness that they got. And I think winning the Rugby World Cup definitely puts teams up with ease. I love it. This is just good inside baseball, and also speaks also to the volume that there's not a huge height of it. Even Italy and Australia that are actively struggling in their rugby unions both have relative top 10 values. Japan is the one that I think is surprising, even though now they're tier 1, but they have not been considered a major tier 1. And the fact that they're over a Fiji, or they're over I want to get one of the good rankings, because the rankings make the difference in that too. Like over Argentina, that's not even in the mix, over Scotland. Like that one actually surprised me at neither the value or the strength were there. And still, even the fact that they're over Italy, like that's significant. That's a big deal. And probably a lot of it has to do with the professional team that sticks there in Tokyo. So something that you guys can absolutely take a look at, and to be able to read a little bit more and see what they have going on. But y'all, that's all that we have for you today. I ain't convinced.